For our discussion about what motivates volunteers, I invited Jim and Amy to join us.
Good to see you guys again.
Today we're going to continue with the Managing Volunteers module of WSU Master Gardener Program Coordinator Training. We'll start with the topic of motivating. Later on, we'll look at communicating and supporting and other volunteer management topics, and the final module is called Program Management Skills. So let's get started with motivating. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to talk about what every volunteer needs and expects from their organization and its manager, along with the specific needs of our master gardeners. Amy, what did you think helped you the most when you first started volunteering with the WSU Master Gardener program?
You know, I think the welcoming culture. Everyone greeted me with a smile and treated me with respect from the very beginning. From the screening interview to introductions at my first class, I always felt valued and appreciated. It also helped to be given a comfortable and well-equipped work area and provided with a range of volunteer activities to choose from.
It's important to show volunteers how they fit into and enhance the extension system. Volunteers who don't feel valued and welcome won't stay around for very long. So, Jim, what helped you the most when you first started volunteering?
For me, getting a clear understanding of the mission and goals of the program. It was a bit unclear to me during the application process how the Master Gardener program differed from other gardening groups. The program coordinator explained the difference to me, and this clarification early on has really helped.
Yeah, knowing the mission and goals of the Master Gardener program is important. It's a good idea for you and the other veterans to review these goals as well as telling new volunteers about them. You can do this by reviewing the first module in this series, or you can reread the Master Gardener program handbook. Jim, can you remind us about some of the goals of the program?
Sure. To enhance natural resources and environmental stewardship, sustain vibrant communities, and improve the health and wellness of Washington residents.
Jim, was there anything that was difficult for you when you first became a volunteer with us?
The very first task I was given, well, it was frustrating because I didn't know what I was expected to accomplish. I really needed the program coordinator to give me clear and specific expectations for my work.
Todd, can you give me some examples of expectations?
Sure. Things like explaining when and how and why volunteers need to record their hours every month, and why they need to wear name tags when they volunteer, and why they must use approved references when advising their clientele. Amy, was there anything that could have helped you when you first started volunteering with us?
Well, I would have liked more training and resources for the project I was initially given. One of the other volunteers had done the project before, and I think perhaps the coordinator assumed that I knew how to do it already.
Yeah, that's a good point. Program coordinators need to make sure that every volunteer has the training and resources they need to do the job. So is there anything you think you would like to see more of now that we have a new program coordinator?
Contact with her.
Definitely. I hardly ever saw the last person.
That's good feedback. But every volunteer has different needs for interaction with the coordinator. Can you define what you mean?
Although I prefer to work independently, I always appreciate a good morning or a thanks for working today.
And I like more support and some personal communication, such as some time to talk about my garden or my kids.
Yeah, you need to find a balance of verbal and nonverbal and personal and professional, group and individual contact that works for you and for your volunteers. So what do you both agree that our new program coordinator should continue doing?
Providing volunteers with recognition and feedback, that's for sure.
And acknowledging volunteers and their work.
So we'll talk more about volunteer recognition, but for now, remember that acknowledging volunteers is important in every part of volunteer management, and there are lots of different ways to do it. So now that we've talked about what all volunteers need from their organization, let's talk specifically about motivating Master Gardener volunteers. Do you remember the three primary motivators that were identified in the statewide survey discussed in the presentation, Why People Volunteer?
I do. The first was personal development, such as learning about horticulture. Then social contact, being with other gardeners. And finally, the desire to serve. People want to give back to their community.
Luckily for coordinators, meeting their volunteers' need for learning about horticulture is easy, since the Master Gardener program is all about educating volunteers. Basic training gives them a lot of information.
You know, in addition to basic training, I love the continuing education opportunities we have. Our coordinator keeps us up to date on horticultural classes that are offered by our local community college, by professional organizations like Washington State Nursery and Landscape Association, and by Master Gardener programs in neighboring counties. Sometimes a group of us will carpool to a good class.
Yeah, I know that some county programs augment their classroom training with study groups, and some have research projects and field trips and workshops. Some volunteers prefer hands-on training over classes. Kelly, how will you know what your volunteers are most interested in?
Well, I think I'd want to pass out a survey or hold a group discussion, and I can even talk informally with volunteers.
You should also interact with us regularly to keep up to date with any change in our situation, both in terms of volunteer work and about issues that may affect our program participation. For example, last year, I attended every continuing education class that was offered, but this year I missed most of them. The program coordinator asked me if I didn't think the classes were helpful or if I was just busy. I was having some personal issues that kept me from attending, but I really appreciated being asked.
We all agree that personal development is important to volunteers, but you need to communicate with them about how much time they can offer the program or about their interest and energy levels.
I can see that would be important. People can't always spend a lot of time volunteering, but it might be hard for them to say no if the coordinator keeps asking them to do more projects. Also, I wouldn't want to make someone feel their contribution isn't important just because they don't have as much time to volunteer as other people do.
Excellent point, Kelly. So how about for social contact? How can a program coordinator make sure that Master Gardener volunteers get enough of that?
For me, the best kind of social contact is when I'm having a good time with my fellow volunteers.
Yeah, I'm definitely more productive and satisfied when I'm having fun, regardless of the task.
So, do you integrate social time into volunteer time, or do you keep them separate?
When I took basic training, the coordinator gave us time after class to meet each other to find people with similar interests. She put us into small groups according to zip codes so we could arrange carpooling or set up study groups in our neighborhood.
During projects like weeding a demonstration garden or transplanting plants for a plant sale, you can plan a pre- or post-activity refreshment break. You can plan quarterly meetings that provide continuing education half the time and social time the other half. Some counties hold summer garden tours of volunteers' yards, and that can be educational but also a lot of fun. All these activities bring veterans into contact with new volunteers, and they build cohesion in the group.
I bet that when volunteers spend more time together, their needs and probably their motivation for staying in the program could change. For instance, as they get to know each other and form friendships, they probably need more time to socialize before and during project activities.
These are all good ideas to help people enjoy their volunteer time. So what do you think the program coordinator can do to help volunteers achieve the final Master Gardener motivating factor? That's the desire to serve.
I found the longer I'd been volunteering, the more I value involvement in planning and decision-making.
Tried and true volunteers are likely to have a good understanding of their program's goals and the community needs, so let them guide the project direction.
What really helped me was the program coordinator showing me how important my involvement in the senior gardening project had been. We had participants complete a survey at the end of the project, and I was really thrilled to see how many people had learned new gardening techniques that allowed them to continue gardening in spite of their physical limitations.
It also helps to be reminded of why we get involved in a project. One time, when we were working on a children's garden, one of the volunteers was doing everything.
That's right. She made the kids stand back and watch while she did all the work.
Luckily, the program coordinator told the volunteer, our participation in the children's garden should focus on teaching the children how to garden, not in doing it for them. It reminded us all that our goal is education.
Kelly, one of the most important things you'll do as a coordinator is to manage people's expectations. Despite your best efforts during recruiting and orientation, some people may come into your program with a preconceived or inaccurate idea of how the program functions. If their needs and expectations aren't met or they conflict with the needs of the programs, you can have problems. You'll need to help them develop more realistic expectations. So what do you think some volunteers might need clarified?
Well, I bet some people come into the program thinking that they'll spend all their time gardening. Now that I understand we want an educational component in every project, I can explain that to volunteers.
That's a good example, and some volunteers don't think they should have to take part in fundraising. So it's important to explain how the program is funded and to show them that fundraising activities can have an education component. For example, in our plant sale, we always have some volunteers there to answer questions, and we give people handouts about how to plant properly.
You know, I really hated recording my volunteer hours until the coordinator explained why it was important. The coordinator said that it was important both to me in terms of insurance coverage if I got hurt and to Extension so they can demonstrate what a great resource the Master Gardener program is to the community and state.
We discussed a lot of ways to motivate volunteers. Let's talk about a few scenarios that you might encounter. So it's someone's first day to volunteer after they completed training. What should you do first?
I'd want to make sure they know what I expect of them in the job they're assigned to. I'd also like to post our mission and goals where they can see them.
What else?
Be welcoming and available for questions.
And, Kelly, listen, if you can't meet every new volunteer personally, you can train mentors like me to do that.
And be sure a new person knows where to find all the resources they need.
So how would you keep motivating a volunteer who's been around for a while?
Provide them with advanced training for special projects.
Make volunteering fun.
And include them in planning and decision making.
Thanks for helping us, Amy and Jim. Maybe we'll see you later today. Now, Kelly, let's go on to learn about the best ways to communicate with volunteers.